He booked Rome the morning after the flowers at the grave had started to wilt. Not a holiday, he said. A rescue, a reset. A chance to heal the marriage while the world was still soft around her, while grief made people kind. Samara Kincaid did not feel kind. She felt hollow. She felt like every room in her house had turned into a corridor she had to walk through alone. Her father's death had left her with more than a funeral and a quiet ache. It left her with the old family assets everyone whispered about but never named too loudly. A row of terraces in South London, a small commercial unit that had once been a barber's, then a cafe, then an office for a charity her mum loved. A country cottage her father used to call the place we breathe. Julian Kincaid held her hand at the wake, kissed her forehead for the cameras, and spoke about legacy like he had always been part of it. In the car home, when the last cousin had gone and the catering trays had been carried away, he turned to her with his softest face. "We need space," he said. "We need Rome." Samara stared out of the window and watched the drizzle smear the streetlights into slow orange rivers. "What do you mean we need Rome?" "You've been carrying everything," he said. "Your grief, your mother's stress, everyone's expectations. Let me carry you for once." He said it like a vow. And when you are grieving, you start to confuse vows with lifelines. Before we begin, take a moment to comment your city and your local time. I always want to know where you're watching from. And if you believe in dignity, fairness, and real accountability, tap like, subscribe, and stay with me. Because what happened next is the kind of control that hides behind the word care. Rome greeted them like a film set, sunlight on pale stone, scooters threading through narrow streets, the scent of espresso drifting out of doorways as if the city itself was breathing warm air into tired lungs. Julian chose the hotel. Not a cheap one, not even a normal one. A high-ceilinged place where the lobby felt like a museum, and the staff spoke in calm, polished tones that made Samara lower her voice without realizing. He insisted on the suite. "It's safer," he said. "More private. You don't need eyes on you." He took her passport for check-in and tucked it into the room's safe. "You can have it whenever you want," he said, smiling, like he'd placed a gift somewhere special. At first, Samara let herself be guided. Breakfast at a terrace table, a slow walk by the river, a church Julian wanted to see because, he said, it made him think about eternity. He held her waist with one hand and his phone with the other, capturing angles where they looked like love. Every time she drifted into silence, he leaned in. "Talk to me," he said. "Stay present." When she tried to talk about her father, he pressed his fingers to her lips gently. "Not here," he whispered. "This is for healing." He said healing the way some people say rules. That first evening, she reached for her phone to call her mother. Julian's hand covered hers. "Not tonight," he said. "Your mom will ask questions. She'll stress you. And stress is what put you in this state." "This state?" Samara repeated, like the words had edges. He softened immediately, eyes glossy, voice low. "I mean the pain. I hate seeing you like this." Then he took her phone, kissed her knuckles, and placed it on the far side of the room. "Let's do one night," he said. "Just one. No outside voices." Samara told herself it was fine. Just one night. She did not yet understand that control rarely begins with shouting. It begins with permission. On the second day, he booked something he called a well-being session. "A proper one," he said, "not the Instagram stuff, real professionals." They walked through a courtyard to a quiet building with soft lighting and a scent like clean linen. A woman at reception smiled at Samara and offered a clipboard. Julian answered for her. "She's exhausted," he said. "Grief, shock, a lot of pressure at home." Samara opened her mouth to correct him. Julian squeezed her hand, just enough to remind her he was there. The woman nodded sympathetically. "We'll take good care of you," she said to Samara. "We do ask that phones are locked away during the session." Julian brightened like the place had validated him. "Of course," he said. "Perfect." He took Samara's phone before she could. He placed it into a small locker and spun the code with the confidence of someone who expected to be trusted. When the door clicked shut, Samara felt a flicker of panic. Julian touched her cheek. "You're safe," he said. "I'll be right outside." The session was calm, breathing, stretching, a soft voice telling her to imagine a door closing on stress, but Samara could not stop imagining doors closing on her. She returned to the lobby 20 minutes later and saw Julian speaking to someone near the entrance, low and quick, like a deal being done. He turned, smiled wide, and walked towards her as if nothing happened. "Better?" he asked. Samara nodded because she was tired. Back in the suite, she found her phone on the bedside table. Face down. She turned it over. No missed calls, no messages, battery at 84%. Julian watched her casually. "Reception here is dodgy," he said. "You'll go mad checking it." Samara's stomach tightened. She glanced at the safe. "Can I have my passport?" she asked, keeping her voice light. Julian laughed softly, like she'd made a cute joke. "Why?" he asked. "In case," she said. "In case of what?" he replied, still smiling. Samara stared at him. He was not angry. He was amused. He walked over, opened the safe, took out her passport, held it between two fingers, then placed it back inside. "You're not thinking straight," he said gently. "This is grief. It makes you suspicious. It makes you run." "I'm not running," Samara said. Julian's smile thinned. "You are," he said quietly. "You always do when it gets hard." Samara felt her chest tighten. She turned away from him and walked to the balcony. Below, the city buzzed with life that seemed untouched by her. She breathed in, slow, and behind her, Julian's voice came again, softer now, almost tender. "I'm trying to save us," he said. Samara did not answer, because she could not tell if he was saving them or saving himself. That night, she woke to the glow of Julian's phone. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, shoulders hunched, thumb moving fast. Samara blinked in the dark. "What time is it?" she whispered. Julian, startled, turned the screen away, then forced a smile. "Sorry," he said. "Work. You know how it is." Samara's mouth tasted like metal. "Why are you working here?" she asked. Julian exhaled like she'd disappointed him. "Because I'm the one holding things together," he said, "while you fall apart." Samara sat up slowly. "I'm grieving," she said, voice shaking. "My dad is gone." Julian looked at her, eyes cold for a second, then warmed them again. "I know," he said. "That's why you need me to make decisions." Samara stared at him. It wasn't the words. It was the certainty underneath them, like he'd already decided her grief had made her unfit to own her own life. The next morning, Julian suggested a walk. He chose a route that led them far from crowds, down quieter streets where the sunlight felt thinner. He bought gelato with a grin, placed it in her hand like a peace offering. "Today is better," he said. "No stress, no paperwork, no family drama." Samara forced a smile and nodded. As they walked, her phone buzzed, just once. Julian's eyes flicked to it immediately. Samara looked down and saw a new email notification, an unfamiliar name, a UK number in the preview. The subject line read, "Estate Matters, Urgent." Her heart jumped. She tried to tap it open. Julian's hand came down over her phone, firm this time. "Not now," he said. Samara froze. Julian's smile stayed in place. "Sam," he murmured, "you promised. Healing, remember?" Samara swallowed. "It could be important," she said. Julian tilted his head, voice soft, but his grip stayed. "Everything feels important to you right now," he said. "That's what grief does. It makes you spiral. I'm protecting you." Samara stared at his hand on her phone. Then she slowly pulled it back. Julian let her, but his eyes followed every movement. Samara put the phone in her pocket, unread. For the rest of the walk, Julian talked about the future. He talked about selling the cottage because it's a maintenance nightmare. He talked about restructuring the portfolio to protect you from tax. He spoke like the properties were already his to move around. Samara listened with a quiet, growing dread. When they returned to the hotel, Julian suggested another well-being session. Samara shook her head. Julian's face hardened for a split second. Then he smiled again. "Fine," he said. "We'll do it in the room. A digital detox. No phone, no emails, just us." Samara's throat tightened. "Julian, I need to call my mom," she said. "She's alone. She's grieving too." Julian sighed dramatically, stood, walked to the mini-bar, poured a glass of water like he was preparing for a lecture. "Your mom doesn't like me," he said calmly. "She will fill your head with rubbish, and you'll come home and ruin everything." Samara stared at him. "My mom loved my dad," she said. "This isn't about you." Julian's eyes sharpened. "Everything becomes about you," he snapped, then immediately softened again. "I'm sorry. I'm just tired. I'm trying." He sat beside her, took her hands. "Let me handle the estate stuff," he said. "I'll speak to whoever it is. I'll make sure it's all sorted. You don't need to carry it." Samara's skin crawled. "No," she said. Julian blinked. "What do you mean, no?" he asked. "I mean, no," Samara repeated, voice steadier. "It's my dad. It's my inheritance. I need to know." Julian smiled, but it was not warmth. It was calculation dressed as patience. "You're not well enough," he said. Samara pulled her hands back. "I'm not a child," she whispered. Julian stood, walked to the curtains, pulled them open wide. Light flooded the room. He turned, framed in the brightness, and for a second, he looked like a man on a stage. "This is what I mean," he said. "This stubbornness, this refusal to let me help." "I didn't refuse help," Samara said. "I refused control." Julian's jaw tightened. "Same thing," he said quietly. And in that moment, Samara felt something inside her shift. A small, hard click, like a lock turning. That afternoon, when Julian went downstairs to speak to concierge, Samara moved fast. She grabbed her phone and opened the email. Her breath caught. It was from a firm she recognized, Bramley and Finch, the estate solicitors her father had used for years. The message was short. It said they had attempted to reach her, that there were documents requiring her attention, and that it was important she confirm receipt. Attached was a scanned letter. Samara tapped it open. The letterhead made her eyes sting. She could almost hear her father's voice in the calm, proper formatting. Her hands trembled as she read. It referenced her father's will. It referenced a life interest. It referenced beneficiaries. And then, one line made her pulse slam. A beneficiary update had been confirmed, finalized, registered, beyond the reach of any spouse. Samara read it again. She did not fully understand all the legal language, but she understood the shape of it. Her father had anticipated something. He had protected her. Tears blurred her vision. A sob rose sharp and ugly, and she covered her mouth to keep it quiet. Then her phone buzzed again. A missed call. A UK number, voicemail. Samara tapped play. A woman's voice, firm, professional. "Ms. Kincaid, this is Harriet Solanke, probate solicitor. I've been asked to contact you directly due to concerns raised by your estate solicitors. Please call me as soon as you can. It is important you speak to someone independent, not through your husband. Thank you." Samara's stomach dropped. Independent, not through your husband. Samara looked towards the door. Her skin prickled. She didn't have time. She called the number back, hands shaking. It rang once, twice. Harriet answered immediately. "Samara Kincaid?" she said. "Yes," Samara whispered. "Are you alone?" Harriet asked, no small talk. Samara swallowed. "For now," she said. "Where are you?" Harriet asked. Samara hesitated, then said, "Rome." There was a short pause. Harriet's voice stayed steady, but a sharpness entered it. "Right," she said. "Listen carefully. Have you signed anything recently? Any documents? Any authorizations?" Samara's breath quickened. "No," she said. "Why?" Harriet exhaled. "Because there has been an attempt to initiate changes related to your inherited property interests," she said, "and it is not coming from you." Samara's blood ran cold. "What changes?" she asked. "Title-related inquiries," Harriet said carefully. instructions to property management, a request for access, and a push for expedited handling. Samara closed her eyes. Julian's face flashed in her mind. The way he said, "Let me handle it," the way he watched her phone, the way he locked her passport away like it was for her own good. Harriet continued. "I want you to understand something," she said. "The letter you received is significant. Your father created a structure that gives you a life interest in certain assets and protects the underlying ownership for named beneficiaries. It means you have rights. It means there are limits on what a spouse can take or control." Samara's throat tightened. "My dad did that," she whispered. "Yes," Harriet said. "Your father was careful." Samara's eyes burned. Harriet's voice softened slightly. "Samara," she said, "control can look like care, especially in grief. But if your husband is acting on your behalf without your authority, we need to move quickly." Samara's hands were clammy. "What do I do?" she asked. Harriet didn't hesitate. "First," she said, "do not confront him alone. Second, secure your documents. Third, I want you to email me the letter immediately. Fourth, we can put protective measures in place today." "Today?" Samara repeated. "Yes," Harriet said. "Injunction if needed, title restrictions, formal notices, and we can involve the land registry if there is any fraudulent activity." Samara felt dizzy. "How did you even find out?" she asked. Harriet's voice sharpened again. "Because an insider did the right thing," she said. "A property manager refused to follow suspicious instructions. He contacted your estate solicitor. Your estate solicitor contacted me. And now I'm contacting you." Samara's mouth went dry. The door handle clicked. Samara's heart lurched. Julian's voice called out, cheerful. "Sam, you decent?" Samara lowered her phone quickly. Harriet's voice was urgent. "Samara," she said, "are you safe?" Samara swallowed hard. "He's back," she whispered. "End the call," Harriet said. "Text me a safe time, and do not let him take your phone." Samara hung up. She wiped her face, forced her breathing steady, and placed the phone face down on the bed. Julian walked in carrying a small bag. "Got you something," he said brightly. He pulled out a silk scarf, red, expensive. He draped it over his shoulders like a man dressing a mannequin. "There," he said. "That's better. Color, life, you're coming back to me." Samara stared at him. "Julian," she said carefully, "did you contact my dad's solicitors?" Julian didn't flinch. He smiled. "I spoke to someone," he said casually, "just to check what's going on." "You spoke to someone," Samara repeated. Julian sat on the edge of the bed. "Sam," he said, voice low, "you're not in a state to deal with paperwork." Samara's hands curled into fists on her lap. "Did you sign anything?" she asked, forcing the words out. Julian laughed softly. "Don't be ridiculous," he said. "Why would I sign anything?" Samara stared at him. "Then why is anyone making title inquiries?" she asked. Julian's smile paused. Just a fraction. Then it returned. "Who told you that?" he asked calmly. Samara felt her pulse in her throat. No more small questions, no more pretending. She leaned forward slightly. "My phone," she said. "It's my phone, and someone called me directly. An independent probate solicitor." Julian's face changed. Not anger, not panic, something colder, a recalculation. He stood up slowly. "Give me your phone," he said. Samara swallowed. "No," she said. Julian stepped closer. "Samara," he said, voice soft but sharp, "you're spiraling. You're paranoid. You need help, real help." Samara's breath shook. "I need my passport," she said. Julian stared at her. The room felt smaller. "You're not leaving," he said quietly. Samara's stomach dropped. Julian's tone shifted again, smooth as silk. "I didn't mean that," he said. "I mean, don't run away from us. Don't run away from healing." Samara stood. She kept her voice even. "You locked my passport in a safe," she said. "You tried to stop me reading emails. You told people I'm not well enough to manage my dad's estate." Julian held up his hands like she was attacking him. "I'm protecting you," he said. "No," Samara said, louder now. "You're positioning me." Julian's eyes flicked, a quick flash of irritation. "You're grieving," he said. "You don't know what you're saying." Samara took a slow breath. Then she did something Julian did not expect. She smiled, a small, controlled smile. Because now she had something he could not charm away. She had the truth. That night, Samara barely slept. Julian stayed close, too close, like a guard pretending to be a lover. In the early hours, when his breathing deepened, Samara slid out of bed carefully and went into the bathroom with her phone. She locked the door. She texted Harriet. "Now. I'm alone." "He is asleep," Harriet replied immediately. "Do you have a safe place to take this call?" Samara stared at the message. Safe place. In Rome. With a husband who had already decided she was unfit. She typed back, "Bathroom, door locked." Harriet called. Samara answered, whispering. Harriet's voice was calm, like a rope thrown down into a dark pit. "Good," Harriet said. "Listen, we are acting today. I am filing an urgent application for protective measures, but I need your consent on record. I also need you to forward all communications from Bramley and Finch to me, and I need you to confirm whether your husband has access to any original documents." Samara's throat tightened. "He has keys to the house," she whispered. "He has access to everything." Harriet's tone sharpened. "Then we assume he may attempt to obtain documents," she said. "We also assume he may try to present himself as acting on your behalf. From now on, you do not allow him to speak for you." Samara nodded, even though Harriet couldn't see. "How do I stop him?" Samara whispered. Harriet exhaled slowly. "Two ways," she said, "legal and practical. Legal is the injunction and title restrictions. Practical is you removing yourself from his immediate control and contacting someone you trust. Is your mother aware of any of this?" Samara's eyes stung. "No," she whispered. "He doesn't want me calling her." "Exactly," Harriet said. "That is a red flag." Samara swallowed. "I feel stupid," she said, voice cracking. "He did it so gently." Harriet's voice softened again. "Do not call yourself stupid," she said. "This is how coercive control works. It is not always loud. Sometimes it is soft. Sometimes it wears the face of concern." Samara's breath trembled. Harriet continued. "Now, the good news," she said. "Your father's structure creates a barrier. It is a hidden lever. It is beyond your husband's reach in the way he is attempting. That letter confirms it. It gives us leverage. But we must still stop him from interfering, intimidating, or attempting fraudulent registration activity." Samara pressed her palm to her mouth to steady herself. "How did he even try?" she whispered. "He can't just change titles." Harriet's voice was careful. "Sometimes they attempt to submit forms with forged signatures," she said. "Sometimes they try to pressure managing agents to hand over tenancy documents. Sometimes they try to reposition finances, claim authority, or create the impression that you consent. It's about control as much as it is about money." Samara felt sick. Harriet continued. "There is also an insider who can help us," she said. "The property manager. His name is Callum Vane. He's prepared to give a statement about the instructions he received, but he needs to know you are safe." Samara's eyes widened. Callum. An insider. A person who had looked at Julian's instructions and thought, "This isn't right." Samara swallowed. "Tell him thank you," she whispered. "I will," Harriet said. "Now, I need you to do one thing immediately. Email me from your phone a written statement that you do not authorize Julian Kincaid to act on your behalf in relation to your father's estate or any property interests. One sentence. Simple. Then I will put it into the file and send formal notice to the relevant parties." Samara nodded again. Harriet paused. "And Samara," she said, voice firm, "if he becomes threatening, you contact local authorities and you contact your mother. Understood?" Samara's throat tightened. "Yes," she whispered. Harriet's voice softened one last time. "You're doing well," she said. "Stay steady." We move today. Samara ended the call, breathed, then typed the sentence. I do not authorize Julian Kincaid to act for me in any matter relating to my late father's estate, my inheritance, or any property interests. She sent it. Then she stood in the bathroom mirror, eyes swollen, scarf still around her shoulders, and she whispered to her reflection, Not today. Julian noticed the shift in her by lunchtime. Control is like a sensor. It detects resistance. They sat at a quiet restaurant, white tablecloth, soft music, a waiter who smiled too long. Julian watched Samara as she stirred her pasta. You're different today, he said lightly. Samara looked up. How? She asked. Julian smiled. Sharper, he said, like you've got something in your head. Samara held his gaze. I've got clarity, she said. Julian's smile thinned. You've got fear, he corrected. You've been speaking to someone. Samara didn't flinch. Yes, she said, I have. Julian leaned back, exhaled. Sam, he said, voice calm but edged, you're letting outsiders poison you. Outsiders, Samara repeated. Julian smiled again, but his eyes were cold. Solicitors, he said, your mum, those people who never liked me. Samara swallowed, kept her voice even. My dad's solicitor's not poisoning me, she said. He's protecting me, and so is my probate solicitor. Julian's jaw tightened. Your probate solicitor? He repeated. Since when do you have your own probate solicitor? Samara leaned forward slightly. Since you decided I wasn't well enough, she said. Julian's eyes narrowed. He was quiet for a moment. Then he reached across the table, took her hand. The gesture was almost tender. Almost. Samara, he said softly, you're not thinking straight. Samara pulled her hand away gently. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in weeks, she said. Julian's smile vanished. For the first time, the mask slipped fully. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. Samara's heart thudded, but she kept her face calm. What mistake? She asked. Julian leaned in, voice low so only she could hear. You're embarrassing me, he said. Samara stared at him, and suddenly she understood. It was never just the money. It was the status, the story he got to tell people, the respectable husband supporting his grieving wife, the hero, the caretaker, the owner. Samara's voice was steady. I don't care about your embarrassment, she said. I care about my safety and my father's legacy. Julian's eyes sharpened. You're acting crazy, he hissed. Samara's hands trembled, but she held her posture. I'm acting free, she replied. Julian leaned back, lips pressed tight. The waiter approached with dessert menus. Julian smiled instantly, bright and charming. Thank you, he said, voice warm. We'll just have the bill. The waiter nodded, unaware of the storm at the table. Julian turned back to Samara, smile gone again. We're going back to the hotel, he said. You need rest. Samara's stomach tightened. No, she said calmly. I'm going for a walk. Julian stared at her. You're not walking alone, he said. Samara stood, picked up her bag. Yes, she said. I am. Julian's hand shot out and caught her wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, just hard enough to remind her he could. Samara's breath caught. She looked down at his hand. Then she looked up, voice calm. Let go, she said. Julian's smile returned, fake and thin. Sam, he whispered, don't make a scene. Samara glanced around the restaurant, people laughing, glasses clinking, a world that would not notice unless she forced it to. She lifted her voice slightly. Let go of my wrist, she said. Heads turned. Julian's eyes widened a fraction. His hand loosened. He smiled at the onlookers like it was a joke. Sorry, he said lightly. My wife is tired. Samara pulled her arm free. She smiled politely at the nearest table, then walked out of the restaurant without looking back. Once outside, the sunlight hit her face like a slap. Her heart raced. She didn't stop walking until she reached a busy street. Then she pulled out her phone and called her mother. Her mother answered on the second ring. Samara? her mum said, voice strained, like she'd been holding herself together with thin thread. Samara's throat tightened. "Mum," she whispered. "Oh, love," her mum said immediately. "Oh, my baby." Samara's eyes filled with tears. "I'm in Rome," she said. "I know," her mum replied. "He told me." Samara froze. "He told you?" she repeated. "Yes," her mum said. "He called. He said you needed peace, that you were overwhelmed, that you didn't want to talk." Samara's stomach dropped. Her mum's voice shook. "I didn't believe him," she said, "but I didn't want to push you if you were fragile." Samara swallowed hard. "I'm not fragile," she whispered. "I'm being controlled." Her mum inhaled sharply. "What has he done?" she asked, voice suddenly firm. Samara closed her eyes and told her, quickly, quietly, the parts that mattered: the safe, the phone, the emails, the solicitor. Her mother went silent. Then her voice came like steel through the line. "Listen to me," her mum said. "You are coming home." Samara's breath trembled. "He has my passport in the safe," she whispered. Her mum didn't hesitate. "Then we will get it," she said. "Do you hear me? We will get it. You are not trapped." Samara's chest tightened. "And Sam," her mum added, voice low. "Your father knew. He knew something. He told me once if anything ever happens to me, Samara must never sign anything under pressure. He said it like he was warning me." Samara's breath caught. Her father's voice echoed in her memory, gentle but firm. "Never sign under pressure." Her mum continued. "We will call the British consulate if we have to," she said. "You are not staying there with him." Samara nodded through tears. "I've got a probate solicitor," she whispered. "Harriet Solanke." "Good," her mum said. "Put her on speaker with me later. We are doing this properly." Samara swallowed. "I'm scared," she admitted. Her mum's voice softened for a moment. "I know," she said, "but fear is not a chain. It's a signal. It's telling you to move, and you are moving." Samara exhaled, shaking. Her mum's voice steadied again. "Now," she said. "Where is he?" Samara looked back down the street. "I don't know," she whispered. "Probably coming." Her mum's voice sharpened. "Get somewhere public," she said. "Stay around people, and text me your location." Samara did. Then she ended the call and stood among strangers with gelato shops and postcards and sunlit stone. And for the first time since her dad died, she felt something like power return to her spine. Julian found her within 20 minutes. He appeared at the edge of the crowd like a shadow wearing a smile. "Sam," he called gently, walking towards her. "There you are." Samara didn't move. Julian reached for her hand. Samara stepped back. Julian's smile stayed in place. "You're upset," he said. "I understand. Come back to the hotel. Let's talk privately." Samara lifted her chin. "No," she said calmly. Julian blinked. "What do you mean, no?" he asked, the same words as before, but now the softness was gone. "I mean no," Samara repeated. Julian's eyes flicked around, noticing the crowd, the public setting. He lowered his voice. "Stop this," he hissed. "People are watching." "Good," Samara said quietly. Julian's smile returned quickly. "Samara," he said, voice warm enough to fool a stranger, "you're having a moment. Let's not do this here." Samara held his gaze. "I spoke to Harriet," she said. Julian's smile froze, just for a second. Then it softened again. "Who?" he asked lightly, like he didn't know. "My probate solicitor," Samara said. "The one you told people I shouldn't speak to." Julian's jaw tightened. Samara continued, voice even. "She knows about the attempted title changes," she said. "She knows about the instructions sent to my property manager." Julian's eyes sharpened, but he kept his smile. "You're confused," he said. "No one is changing titles." Samara nodded slowly. "Then you won't mind giving me my passport," she said. Julian's smile thinned. "Later," he said. "When you calm down." Samara's voice stayed steady. "Now," she said. Julian's eyes flickered with anger. "You're not well," he muttered. Samara took a slow breath. and then she raised her voice slightly, just enough. "This man has locked my passport away," she said to no one in particular. "I want it back." The crowd's energy shifted. A few heads turned fully now. Julian's face tightened. He leaned in close, voice low. "You're ruining everything," he hissed. Samara looked at him, eyes steady. "You ruined it," she whispered back, "when you tried to take what my father left me." Julian's nostrils flared. Then he smiled brightly again, too bright. "Come on," he said lightly. "Let's go upstairs." Samara didn't move. Julian's smile faltered. A man nearby, older, watching, stepped slightly closer, not aggressive, just present. Julian noticed. He exhaled sharply, then leaned toward Samara with a tight smile. "Fine," he murmured. "We'll go to the hotel, but you are not shouting in public." Samara nodded, but her voice was calm. "We're going to the hotel," she said, "and you're opening the safe." Julian's eyes narrowed, but he turned, and he walked, because public pressure is a language control understands. Back in the suite, Julian moved like a man being forced to play a part he didn't choose. He walked to the safe. Samara stood near the door, phone in hand, ready. Julian paused, fingers hovering over the keypad. "Samara," he said quietly, "if you do this, there's no coming back." Samara stared at him. "From what?" she asked. "From control?" Julian turned slowly. His voice dropped. "You're my wife," he said. "What's yours is mine." Samara's stomach tightened, but her voice stayed steady. "No," she said. "What my father built for me is mine, and he built it beyond you for a reason." Julian's face hardened. He turned back to the safe and punched in the code. The safe clicked. He opened it. Samara stepped forward and took her passport. She held it like a piece of her body returned. Julian watched her, eyes cold. "You're making me the villain," he said quietly. Samara's laugh was short and sharp. "You made yourself that," she replied. Julian's face shifted again, back to softness, back to pleading. "Sam," he said, stepping towards her, hands open. "You're grieving. You're not seeing clearly. Let's just go home and reset. No solicitors, no drama, just us." Samara stared at him. Then she spoke slowly, clearly. "You tried to change things behind my back," she said. "You isolated me. You told people I wasn't capable. You tried to speak for me." Julian shook his head. "I was helping," he insisted. Samara's eyes stayed steady. "No," she said. "You were taking." Julian's jaw tightened. "You don't understand how serious this is," he hissed. "Those properties are complicated. You could lose everything if you don't do it right." Samara nodded slightly. "That's why I hired Harriet," she said calmly. Julian's eyes narrowed. "You hired her?" he repeated, voice sharp. "Yes," Samara said. "I did, and she's acting today." Julian's face shifted, a flicker of panic now. "What do you mean, acting?" he asked. Samara's phone buzzed. A message from Harriet. Filed. Notices issued. Land registry restriction request submitted. Injunction application in motion. Samara looked at the message, then looked up at Julian. "It means you're done," she said quietly. Julian's eyes widened. "You can't do that," he snapped. "You can't block me out." Samara's voice was calm. "I can," she said, "because you were never meant to be in." If you're still with me, comment clarity in the chat, because this is the moment the mask starts to crack and the truth always gets loud when it's cornered. Julian didn't shout, not yet. He went very still. Then he smiled slowly, a smile without warmth. "You think a solicitor can save you?" he asked quietly. "You think paperwork beats me?" Samara held his gaze. "It's not just paperwork," she said. "It's evidence." Julian's eyes flickered. "What evidence?" he asked, voice tight. Samara didn't answer, because she didn't need to tell him everything. She just needed him to know she wasn't alone anymore. Julian stepped closer. His voice dropped. "You're not leaving this room," he said. Samara's heart thudded. She kept her voice steady. "I'm leaving," she said. "Right now. Julian's hand moved, not grabbing, just reaching, as if he could pull her back with a gesture. Samara stepped towards the door. Julian's voice sharpened. "If you walk out," he hissed, "I will tell everyone you're unstable. I will tell them you had a breakdown in Rome. I will make sure you never manage anything again." Samara froze for a moment. Then she turned, and her voice came out quiet, but strong. "You already tried that," she said, "and it failed, because one person did the right thing." Julian's eyes narrowed. "Who?" he asked. Samara smiled slightly. "You don't get to know," she said. She opened the door and walked out. Julian followed, voice low, urgent. "Samara," he said, "stop. Think about your reputation." Samara didn't turn. "I am," she said. "I'm protecting it." She walked through the hotel lobby, passport in her bag, phone in her hand, spine straight. Julian stayed behind her like a shadow, but he didn't touch her now, because the world could see. And control hates witnesses. Samara checked into another hotel that afternoon. She didn't choose luxury. She chose normal. A small room, a simple key card, a receptionist who didn't know her name. She called Harriet from the bed, curtains half open. Harriet's voice was brisk. "Good," she said. "You're separated physically. That matters." Samara exhaled. "What happens now?" she asked. Harriet didn't sugarcoat it. "Now we hold the line," she said. "We've filed for an injunction to prevent interference. We've requested restrictions to be placed on the titles to prevent any disposition without proper authority. We've issued notices to relevant parties. And we've documented your lack of consent." Samara swallowed. "Will he be arrested?" she asked softly. Harriet paused. "That depends," she said. "If there is evidence of forgery or fraud, there can be criminal implications. But for now, the priority is protection and control of the assets." Samara nodded. Harriet continued. "Callum Vane has provided his statement," she said. "He confirms he received instructions purportedly on your behalf that did not match prior protocol. He also confirms pressure was applied to him to move quickly." Samara closed her eyes. Pressure. That word again. Harriet's voice sharpened. "And Samara," she said, "your husband's solicitor has contacted Bramley and Finch. They are asking questions." Samara's stomach tightened. "Questions?" she repeated. "Yes," Harriet said. "They want to know why the restrictions are being requested. They want to know why there's an injunction application. They want to know what evidence exists." Samara swallowed. Harriet's voice was calm. "This is where your father's letter becomes leverage," she said. "It demonstrates a structure your husband cannot simply override. It also indicates your father anticipated the need for protection." Samara's eyes stung again. Harriet continued. "And it forces your husband's legal team to consider their position," she said. "No solicitor wants to be on record assisting a client who may be attempting fraud. If they see risk, they withdraw." Samara exhaled shakily. "Will they withdraw?" she asked. Harriet's voice was firm. "They might," she said. "And if they do, it tells you something important." Samara nodded slowly. Harriet paused. "Samara," she said, softer now, "when you come home, do not return to the marital home alone. We will arrange safe access if you need to retrieve belongings, and we will ensure you are supported." Samara swallowed. "Thank you," she whispered. Harriet's voice stayed steady. "This is what I do," she said. "And you're doing the hardest part. You're choosing yourself." Julian didn't stop. That night he sent messages. Soft at first. "Please talk to me. I'm worried." Then sharper. "You're being manipulated." Then cruel. "You'll regret this. You need me." Then back to soft again. "I love you. Come back." Samara read them with a strange calm. It was like watching someone swap masks rapidly, hoping one of them would stick. She didn't reply. Instead, she slept with her phone on her chest and her passport under the pillow. In the morning, she received an email from Harriet. "Update, his solicitor has withdrawn." Samara stared at the words, "withdrawn." a simple word with heavy meaning. She called Harriet immediately. Harriet answered. "Yes," she said. "They've stepped back. They cited professional concerns and lack of clarity regarding authority." Samara's throat tightened. "So he's alone," she whispered. Harriet's voice was calm. "Not entirely," she said. "People like him find new representation, but the withdrawal is a sign. It means the ground under him is unstable." Samara swallowed. "And the injunction?" she asked. Harriet's voice was crisp. "We have an interim order," she said. "Temporary protective measures while the court considers the full application. The key point is this: he is now legally on notice. Any interference will escalate consequences." Samara closed her eyes. For the first time, her breath didn't feel trapped in her ribs. She exhaled. A long, shaky release. When Samara flew home, she didn't fly with Julian. She flew with her mother on the phone the entire time, and Harriet's emails in her inbox, and a quiet determination in her bones. At Heathrow, she felt the weight of London air, gray and familiar, settle on her shoulders. Her mother met her at arrivals, wrapped her in a hug so tight Samara could barely breathe. "My baby," her mom whispered. "You're home." Samara held on, eyes closed. "I'm home," she whispered. Her mother pulled back, looked into her face. "You look older," she said softly. Samara nodded. "I feel older," she replied. They didn't go back to the house. They went to her mother's place, a small, warm home that smelled like tea and safety. That evening, Harriet visited in person. A woman in her 40s, sharp eyes, calm posture, a voice that didn't waver. Harriet sat at the kitchen table and laid out documents neatly, like order placed on chaos. "We will take this step by step," she said, "and we will not rush." Samara nodded. Harriet looked at her carefully. "Has he contacted you since you returned?" she asked. Samara nodded. "Yes," she said. "Messages, calls, soft then sharp." Harriet nodded as if that was expected. "Keep everything," she said. "Do not delete. Do not respond. Evidence matters." Samara nodded. Harriet slid one paper towards her. "This is a simple statement of position," she said. "It confirms separation of authority and your refusal for him to act. It supports the injunction and title restrictions. Read it. Sign if accurate." Samara read it slowly. Her hand trembled slightly. Then she signed. Harriet nodded once. "Good," she said. "Now, we also have Callum's statement. He's willing to testify if needed. He will confirm the attempted pressure and the nature of the instructions." Samara swallowed. "I want to thank him," she said. Harriet's eyes softened slightly. "You can," she said. "Later. Right now. Focus on safety." Samara nodded. Harriet continued. "And the estate solicitor letter," she said, tapping the document. "This is your father speaking from beyond the grave, Samara. He did not leave you just assets. He left you protection." Samara's eyes filled. Her mother reached across the table and held Samara's hand. Samara whispered. "He knew," she said. Her mother nodded slowly. "He did," she replied. "He just didn't want to frighten you while he was alive." Harriet leaned forward slightly. "Now," she said, "Julian will likely attempt a narrative. He will frame you as unstable, emotional, manipulated. We counter with calm facts, documentation, and consistent boundaries. Truth with structure." Samara nodded. Harriet's voice stayed firm. "And Samara," she added, "your inheritance is not just money. It is autonomy. It is the ability to live without someone pulling strings." Samara swallowed, tears slipping down. "I didn't realize he was pulling strings until Rome," she whispered. Harriet nodded. "Many people don't realize until they're isolated," she said. "That's why isolation is always a warning sign." Julian finally showed up 2 days later, not at the house, at the office. Samara had gone to Bramley and Finch with Harriet to confirm documents and clarify the estate structure. As Samara walked out of the building, she saw him waiting across the street. Smart coat, clean haircut, hands in pockets, like a man ready for a photograph. Samara's stomach tightened. Harriet noticed immediately. She stepped slightly in front of Samara. "Do not engage," Harriet murmured. Julian crossed the street with that familiar, soft smile. "Sam," he said warmly, like they were still a couple. "Thank God. I've been worried sick." Samara didn't answer. Julian's eyes flicked to Harriet. "And you are?" he asked, smile still there. Harriet's voice was calm. "Harriet Solanke," she said. "Probate solicitor representing Ms. Kincaid." Julian's smile faltered for a fraction. Then it returned. "Right," he said. "Of course. I just want to speak to my wife." Harriet didn't move. "You can communicate through legal channels," she said. "Not here." Julian's smile tightened. "Samara," he said directly, ignoring Harriet. "This has gone too far. You're letting strangers control you. You're destroying our marriage." Samara's voice was calm. "You tried to destroy my autonomy," she said. Julian's eyes flashed. "Autonomy," he scoffed. "Listen to you like you're reading a script." Harriet's voice cut in, firm. "Mr. Kincaid," she said, "your solicitor has withdrawn. You are on notice. There is an interim order. Any attempt to intimidate or coerce Miss Kincaid is documented and will be acted upon." Julian's face tightened. He turned back to Samara, eyes softer now, trying another mask. "Sam," he murmured, stepping closer, "I love you. I was trying to protect you. You know I was." Samara stared at him. For a moment grief rose again. Not grief for her father, grief for the version of her life she thought she had. She spoke quietly. "If you loved me," she said, "you would have supported me to stand, not pushed me to kneel." Julian's eyes hardened. Then his voice turned cold. "You'll regret this," he said. Harriet's voice was sharp. "That is a threat," she said, "and it's noted." Julian's smile returned immediately, too smooth. "No threat," he said lightly. "Just heartbreak." He looked at Samara one last time. Then he walked away, shoulders straight, like he'd lost a game but planned a rematch. Samara watched him go, hands trembling. Harriet turned to her. "You did well," she said. Samara exhaled. "I feel sick," she whispered. Harriet nodded. "That's normal," she said. "But you stayed steady. That's what matters." Over the next few weeks, the legal process moved like a slow train. Not dramatic, not cinematic, but powerful in a quieter way. Harriet filed. Bramley and Finch confirmed. The land registry restriction held. Callum provided further documentation. Julian attempted to send a new solicitor, but Harriet blocked unauthorized approaches. Julian tried to call Samara's mother, but her mother didn't pick up. Julian tried to contact staff at one of the properties, but Callum had already warned them, no communication without written authority from Samara. Samara learned what boundaries looked like in practice. They were not emotional speeches. They were boring emails. They were clear instructions. They were consistent refusal. And every time she held the line, something inside her got stronger. The injunction became formal. Julian was prohibited from interfering with the estate or pressuring Samara to sign. He was ordered to communicate only through legal channels. He was no longer allowed to perform the husband role as a disguise for control. Samara sat in the solicitor's office when the final orders were confirmed. Harriet slid the papers across to her. "There," she said. "This is protection in writing." Samara stared at the ink. Then she whispered, "My dad," she said. "He really did protect me." Harriet nodded. "He did," she said. "And now you're protecting yourself." Samara swallowed, then asked the question that had been sitting in her chest for weeks. "How do I stop this happening to other women?" she asked. Harriet's eyes softened. "You tell the truth," she said. "You name it. You teach what the warning signs look like, and you build something that helps others see clearly before they're trapped." Samara nodded slowly. That night, she opened her laptop and started writing. Not a diary, a guide, a list. The phrases Julian used, the tactics, the small permissions that became cages. She wrote it all down. And as she wrote, she felt something shift again, Not just survival, purpose. Months later, Samara launched a service, not flashy, not corporate, a simple support and education program for widows and women navigating estates after loss. A place to learn the difference between help and control. A place to get a second opinion from independent professionals. A place to spot red flags before they become chains. She called it the clear line, because that's what she wished she'd had in Rome, a clear line between care and control. Her first workshop was held in a small community hall in South London. Tea and paper cups, folding chairs, women of different ages, some with fresh grief in their eyes, some with old wounds. Samara stood at the front, hands steady. She didn't speak like a motivational speaker. She spoke like someone who had lived it. Control doesn't always arrive with shouting, she said. Sometimes it arrives with a scarf, a holiday, a well-being session, a safe word like healing used as a lock. Women nodded. Some looked down, tears in their laps. Samara continued. If someone insists on handling everything while telling you you're not well enough, that's not protection, she said. That's positioning. More nods. Samara took a breath, then offered the lesson she had learned the hard way. Grief makes you vulnerable, she said, and vulnerability is not shame. But you need independence during grief. You need witnesses. You need your own voice. She paused, looked around the room. And you need to remember this, she said. Love does not require your silence. The room was quiet. Then one woman clapped softly, then another, then the whole room. Samara's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. She stood steady, because this time the story wasn't about what was taken. It was about what was returned. Later, walking home after the workshop, Samara checked her phone. A new email sat in her inbox, no subject line, just an attachment. Samara's stomach tightened. She stared at it. She didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, she forwarded it to Harriet, calm. Then she put her phone away and kept walking, head high, streetlights glowing above her like quiet witnesses. Because even if Julian was still out there somewhere, still trying to tug at threads, Samara wasn't tangled anymore. She was clear, she was protected, and she was building a world where other women could be too. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments, have you ever seen control dressed up as care? Subscribe for more stories where dignity matters, truth wins, and accountability shows up, even when it takes time.